Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The shorthanded Lakers grind out, and I do mean grind out, a win in Portland. A big win for the Lakers. We'll break it down next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free. It is never behind paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube, Andy, is where over 32,000 subscribers are all, if nothing else, impressed with the level of effort the Lakers put out in a 110-102 win over Portland, up in Portland on Thursday evening. I do want to let everybody know before we get into the details here that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So Lakers took the floor. No Luka Dončić sitting out the second night of a back-to-back as he still rounds back into health from the calf injury that caused him to miss so much time with the Mavericks. No Jared Vanderbilt, also sitting out because of the back-to-back health question and all of that. So a little shorthanded going against a Portland team that, despite the record, Andy, has actually been playing quite well over the last month or so. And it was an ugly game for the Lakers, but at least to me, in a lot of ways, pretty impressive too.
I would say it's one of those games that it's impressive in its own right when you are not grading it primarily on how well did you play, like how well did you execute. Obviously, really big nights from LeBron James and Austin Reaves that we're going to get into. Both of them, without Luka, truly took on the assignment of putting the team on their backs. And frankly, it did not look easy for either one of them. And we'll like, this wasn't one of those, you're in the case of LeBron, superstar, in the case of Austin Reaves, third best player, one of those nights where they go supernova and you're like, oh my God, how do they make it look so incredibly? No, not one of those nights for either one of them. You really felt the effort. And you felt the effort collectively.
It's much more of like Andy Dufresne crawling through the pipes to get out of Shawshank, and then in the rain like that at the end.
I mean, I would say the two of them had probably more fun than Andy Dufresne, just because there's by definition some degree of fun when you combine for 72 points.
Although not that much more, I don't think.
Well, here's what I would say. They had more fun than Andy Dufresne going through that pipe to escape Shawshank, but not nearly as much fun as on its face one would suspect for 40 points for LeBron, 32 for Austin Reaves. But like, the game was frenetic and often sloppy and often just chaotic. I tweeted out at Cam Brothers, with like maybe 5 minutes left in the first quarter, Lakers Blazers is already dead from alcohol poisoning, drunk, and we're only in the first quarter. Like, this was at times, like in the first quarter, there was a sequence where Jackson Hayes missed a dunk, then Portland missed a dunk on the other end, which turned into a running completed dunk for Hayes on the second consecutive time. I mean, it was just a bonkers game in a lot of ways.
I think the point you're making here about like not confuse, like how you grade the game. Because it was 22 turnovers, I believe
24.
24. That's even worse. So team turnovers. I just had the individual there.
24 in total.
That is a lot. It is a season high. Thank God. If it isn't, like, oh my Lord. That, and they talked a lot. LeBron talked about it. They got in late. They landed in Portland, didn't get to the hotel until like 3:30, close to 4 in the morning. Guys are up basically half the night. Second night of a back-to-back, disappointing game, obviously on Wednesday against Charlotte. To me, this really was a high character win. And it's not one that they're going to be able to build off of in terms of, like you say, what they did on the floor. It actually revealed a lot.
I'll be honest. I don't want them to build off anything execution-wise from this game at all. Like that's actually a terrible idea.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah,
that part.
I mean, I beg of you. Please don't.
If you care at all about us, your fans, media, everybody who has to watch these games, and it actually kind of revealed some of the shortcomings the team still has, particularly in a post-Anthony Davis world. But what I mean by like a high character win is like you said, it wasn't easy even for the stars. LeBron for the the gaudy point total and a very good shooting percentage of 14 of 24, made it to the line, 8 of 8, had 8 rebounds. He had 4 assists. He had 40 points, and he's 40 years old. He also turned the ball over 11 times. Like the double-double tonight in Thursday's game, I should say, was points and turnovers. Like
that. And even if you want to throw away every single turnover LeBron had upon contact that you feel like he should have gotten the call, and there were at least a few of those where he could have gotten the call. There were at least 5 or 6 that were just bad passes. There was one where he got called for, I mean, one of the most blatant illegal screens I've ever seen. He was essentially like a down lineman blocking his assignment. It was a sloppy night for LeBron with the ball. Austin Reaves, 32 points. He got to the line 13 times, made 12 of them. He had several key defensive plays down the stretch. Like, this is one of the best games Austin Reaves has had defensively in a while.
Well,
but particularly down the stretch.
That's what I was about to say.
And not even like, how did you guard your man, but just hustle plays defensively, drawing charges, getting to loose balls and drawing loose ball fouls, things like that. But he also had 6 turnovers, and a few of his passing turnovers were just like, bruh, like, what are you doing?
Well, I want to get into some why I think a lot of these turnovers happen here, but I just to finish this point, like all of what you're describing is why I call this like a character win.
Yes.
So they had to play really, really hard to win this game.
Yeah.
85%, 90% of the effort that they put in. If they put in 90% of that effort, they'd have lost. Like they needed every ounce of what they did to get through it. And they had to grind it out with the other guys, the little contributions from the other guys around the roster. You're dipping into the Trey Jemison, Goodwin portion of the
Trey Jemison had the only bench points in the first half.
Yeah, but like you're saying, like you're going deeper into the bench with guys like that than you normally have been, and you're putting Milton played 5 minutes. You're putting Jordan Goodwin out for 20, so you're deeper into the rotation, and you saw though Finney-Smith with a huge tip and bucket down the stretch, and Gabe Vincent had a couple big defensive plays, came and hit a couple big free throws down at the end of the game. Little stuff from all over the roster to contribute, and I feel like this kind of muscle memory to know that you can win games when you are playing ugly, and to be able to turn things around a little bit, at least offensively, down the stretch. Like they opened the fourth quarter with probably their best stretch of offense, certainly after the first 5 minutes of the game, 10 minutes of the game. And just like little stuff like that. And I think you could tell listening to JJ Redick's reaction after the game, how much he appreciated the work. And it's a really important game, Andy, because you're going to Denver on Saturday. Like that's not an easy game. They got a really tough stretch of schedule. Logistically, they needed to have this game. They had to figure out a way to win it, kind of come hell or high water.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple things before we go to the break. First of all, I want to make sure that it's not misinterpreted at all. When I was talking about LeBron and Reeves' turnovers, the two of them played very well in this game. And like I said, they understood the assignment of, we are going to have to do a lot to make sure this win happens. Even when there were times where I thought both of them were trying to do a little too much, I understood. And both of them deserve just a ton of praise for the way that they played. I just want to make sure that that is crystal clear. Secondly, when we get back, I also just wanted to make sure to point out a few other guys up and down the roster that I thought you want to make sure that you note those contributions, because otherwise, if you're just glancing at the stat sheet, or in particular really paying attention to points, I think you're not going to get the full picture of how well they played.
All right, all that and more coming next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to DoorDash, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's really simple. When a player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, DoorDash members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. So after an epic 50-game performance, hopefully by a guy on your team, you can celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door, maybe a little bit of lunch on the go. And with the Dash Pass, you got to be using the Dash Pass, be a Dash Pass member. You get your favorite meals with zero delivery fees, reduced service fees, and you save more. Again, with this exclusive NBA offer, sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Very important. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more.
So a lot to still unpack here, including like like I was saying, some of the things I think were revealed, some of the shortcomings of the team, which we'll get into after the good stuff. We don't want to we don't want to skip the good stuff. Another thing to remind people, Andy, in addition to being able to subscribe to the program through iTunes or Spotify, that's how you get the audio. Great way to get the show. You can also get the newsletter. Go to lockedondaily.com. Then click on Locked On Lakers and you subscribe there. You're doing us a solid and you're doing yourself a solid, more importantly, because you get this show along with a lot of great NBA analysis delivered to you every day. You had some guys to call out before we move on to the scarier aspects of Thursday's game.
Well, every starter had at least one block in this game. Austin Reaves had 2. Rui, a quiet night scoring, but in terms of things that you often want to see from Rui, 12 rebounds, 4 on the offensive glass. Jackson Hayes, 9 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. I thought he had some really nice plays, challenging around the lane, just being really active. Goodwin, 5 rebounds for a guard. We've talked about this before. Like, Goodwin is actually a very good rebounder for his size. Like, the 24 turnovers, which obviously is a lot and too many. They gave up 31 points, which is on its face a lot of points off turnovers. But for 24 turnovers, it could be a hell of a lot worse. Like, to put it in perspective, Portland gave up about half of that off, I think, 7 fewer turnovers. So I think the Lakers did a pretty good job in this game, at minimum, getting back in transition. There were many plays where after a turnover, somebody got back and bothered a play in transition. I can think of times where DFS did it, where Rui did it, where Jackson
had a couple.
LeBron, Reeves did it a few times. Gabe drew a charge. Like, they really hustled hard in this game to offset not playing very well on balance from start to finish.
Just to put that in perspective, Andy, defensively, like in 2 games, they've got basically over 40 turnovers in the last 2 games. Have given up 202 points. Like,
pretty
you're
good.
working hard defensively when you're doing that. But again, they had to. It goes back to the what we talked about in the first segment. Everything about this game required effort. all of it, if you put in 90% of this of the effort, which still would have been looking like through my TV, like, damn, they're playing pretty hard, they'd have lost. Absolutely would have lost, because 2 or 3 of those possessions that you're talking about there in transition are buckets. And that's the game. That's the game.
And really, anybody in this game who played, significant minutes, they were in the middle of something hustle-wise that was good, and something where they deserve credit. And just collectively, they played extremely hard, especially considering they were shorthanded on the second end of a back-to-back.
I love this comment from Uncle Jam's Army. Jemison has no skill, but he can F people up. He's burning minutes behind Jackson. It's a little harsh, but he does provide like a certain physicality.
Big dude. Jemison is a big dude, and shout out to Uncle Jam. If you know Uncle Jam's Army, if you know, you know.
Strong yes, human being. That Trey Jemison III. I just, I looking at DFS was a +20 in this game. Like, just
he had a huge putback basket down the stretch, massive.
You can see why Luka likes playing with him so much. You can see why JJ was so excited to have him when he just does. As cliched as that sounds, he does things that help win basketball games. He is a winning player. Mm-hmm. And I'm very pleased that he is on the team. I do think, though, we talked about it after Wednesday's game. One of the things I was saying is, like, you could really see that without Reeves, they struggle to put the ball on the floor and get to the basket. Like, and Reeves, who I'm pretty sure was trying to make up for getting himself tossed out of the Charlotte game.
Oh, he kept his mouth shut every time you knew he thought he should have gotten a call. He did not. You could feel him going like 1,001, 1,002, breathe, don't say a damn word.
Yeah. Playing downhill all night, got into a little bit of the second half. I thought he almost got a little overly, kind of lost control. Like, the Lakers generally had a lot of trouble in this game finding the right pace. Portland was really trying to speed up the game, and I think the Lakers were trying to resist. Sometimes they got caught playing too slow, and then sometimes Portland forced them to be too slow because the ball pressure that the Blazers were putting on was really intense, and it bothered LeBron. Obviously, double-digit turnovers. It bothered AR, because even when he was getting into the paint, it took a lot of work to do it. And I think this is an issue the Lakers are going to have. Reeves is probably, in terms of just put the ball on the floor, get in the paint. Luka, when he's back and feeling better, does it too. But he does it in a similar kind of way, uses size, uses the step back, uses whatever. He doesn't just blow by guys. That's not really necessarily his game. The Lakers just don't have a lot of it, even when Reeves is in the game. And now, because they don't have Davis in the middle, a paint-based offense has been kind of recalibrated to something that doesn't have that paint presence. They have to find their way into it. And I think that is going to be an issue. Like, they're going to need Luka, AR, and LeBron with that collective ball handling and passing ability to offset the kind of ball pressure that teams are definitely going to try to put on them.
I mean, I know there's hope that you're going to get some of that from Hayes feasting on lobs, although I will say the lobs need to be better than the ones that have been thrown over the last couple games. Like, Jackson has not been able to really put his best foot forward in terms of some of these lobs. And, things like Rui cutting baseline and relocating, which he actually did very well in the loss against Utah. I actually tweeted out one point, the R in Rui stands for relocation, just because he kept moving off ball and getting set up. So those are some of the areas where I think they are looking to offset AD's absence, or departure, but there's no question they don't have that focal point in terms of paint points. Like, not that they can't generate any, but the guy who can be there as the centering force to get them.
No
like
pun
where
intended.
it all begins. They don't
And
have
look,
that.
I mean, they have enough. The play that one of the plays that I look at and say, like, the potential is still there, even because there's a lot of ways to do this. They have guys, though, particularly obviously Luka and LeBron, who read the floor so well that they don't have to be in a position to kind of like look like they're ready to throw that pass. Like, there was a play in the third quarter where LeBron it was a little before halftime, I should say. LeBron is, I don't know, 5 feet behind the 3-point line. The clock is kind of running down. It doesn't look like the possession's going anywhere. He's like bent down, looking like he's about to break down the defense. And all of a sudden, from 35 feet away in a stagnant half-court possession, he throws a lob to Hayes and they score.
That was great.
That pass was insane.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do that with two guys, not just one. And once Luka, once the jumper comes back, once he gets his legs under him, I've had a couple friends that I've had to talk down a little bit and remind them, like, the guy has been out not just with he's been missed a lot of games. He missed a lot of games with an injury that you can't keep yourself in shape with. Right. If he had a broken wrist, his wind would be better. His legs would be under him more. When you're rehabbing a calf injury, definitionally, you're not allowed to do stuff to keep yourself in game shape. So they will be able to open this stuff up. But as you note, Andy, on the rail for people watching on YouTube, this game and sort of the way they were able to play and the stuff they were able to do and what happened when Luka wasn't available does get to some of the shifting identity questions that they have and how they're going to have to try to fix them. We'll talk about it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can combine your live bets in the same game parlay and use features like the live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether you're backing your team for a late game rally like tonight or picking a player to hit a clutch three. You'll never feel like you're missing out on a chance to try to cash in. The app's easy to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. FanDuel.com for a shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
What would you say? Again, they played two good defensive games. I think in this back-to-back, not perfect, but 101, averaging 101 points is good.
I will say, and I'm not taking anything away from the Lakers defense because they were extremely active, and I think they earned a lot of the problems that Portland and Utah had. That said, those two teams, or Portland and Charlotte, those two teams are wild as hell. Like Charlotte,
and I was going to say that they are not
Charlotte
good. They're not good offensive teams.
Like
so
Charlotte and Portland are two of the wildest offensive teams. Like some of their decision making is like, especially like when you consider that the Blazers are coached by Chauncey Billups, who, for those who don't remember him in his prime with the Pistons, with Denver, like he was one of those settling force adult in the room all-stars, like beyond his talent, all of that stuff. He was like the conscience of your team and the guy that kept everybody in line and on the same page and making smart decisions. He must watch his team every single night and just be like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know what you people are thinking.
I will.
I was young once, but I don't remember being this
I
loco.
don't remember being that young or being like that. And Chauncey was like, 42 when he was 20. So, I get it. But they're just, they are legitimately a team. I know they play really hard. Like they play really hard, and
They do.
They've got talent there. And, guys like, Klingon is enormous, blocked 2 shots on like the first Lakers possession. Like just, they are all over the place. They're not a great offensive team. Both of them and the Hornets are well into the bottom third in terms of points a night. But still, you're doing good work. I don't think it's going. What the hard part about this is they know they're a team that's going to have to play hard defensively. And by the way, they did all these things while turning the ball over 40 times. Like you turn the ball over 40 times and still hold teams to basically 100 points a night. That makes it better. But I think figuring out what they are from an offensive identity is going to be a challenge because they are missing certain things. They have an overabundance in certain categories, like passing, and sort of scoring star power and stuff like that. But they're deficient in others. And so how do you play to all of your strengths? Try to minimize your weaknesses. Oh, and by the way, sort of try to shift this into a Luka Dončić team as opposed to a LeBron James one.
Or at the very least, a Luka team, where it feels like there's a balance between them. And I don't think it's entirely an accident that the Lakers were able to figure it out tonight on a night without Luka, but where you have LeBron and Austin. They look
much more comfortable early for that reason. It's like back to doing what they were doing.
Right. Versus LeBron and Luka, even if from a talent perspective, certainly if Luka is back to being Luka, LeBron and Luka is the higher talent. LeBron and Austin know how to play off each other.
Yeah.
And Luka and LeBron are still learning each other. Luka, Austin, and LeBron together are still learning each other. And then until the three of them really get on at least a similar page, if not the exact same one, it makes it harder for Rui and DFS and Gabe and Jackson, like everybody else to fill in around that until those three are on a much better page together. And, they are trying to figure out who they are. And unfortunately, they've had to do it now, for a few games without Luka after the trade happened because Luka wasn't ready to get back on the court. And then since then, Luka hasn't played in every game. And the ones that he has played in, he hasn't been himself physically, from a comfort level, quite possibly mentally. We talked about before, this is, I'm sure, this experience is a lot for Luka to wrap his head around. And it was interesting. I heard Brian Windhorst on one of the ESPN NBA shows talking a bit how the Lakers need to, I guess, to paraphrase Brian a bit, let Luka be Luka and let him do the things that he does. And I'm like, look, man, and he talked about how Luka's point totals are low. And I'm like, if you look at Luka's usage over his 3 games with the Lakers, he's got the highest usage by a pretty wide margin. Like, his is something like 32. LeBron's was 27 and Austin's was 19 rounding up. The reason Luka's point totals are low is he's shooting like 30% from the field and 20% from behind the arc. And I'm very confident that is going to get better. But for the time being, until Luka is comfortable on a bunch of different levels and these guys get the reps, they're in this process right now of trying to reinvent themselves without being able to do it as often and from the best, place of advantage. And that's a difficult thing to do in real time as you enter a really difficult stretch of the schedule.
Well, they call it a make or miss league, but I joke, but at the same time, we're going to all overreact in the same way that it's easy to overreact to Luka's, what was he, 5 of 18 against Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to overreact to that. He's coming back.
We saw the comments section, man. Folks are reacting.
Right. He's getting fatter, like somehow, like he's like this is the worst trade ever, and all these other things, as opposed to, look, it's like
he was eating donuts on the sideline,
coming back, right? Coming back from a long injury, basically you're kind of starting over again with your season. It takes more than a couple games to get back, because again, the injury prohibited him from staying in shape, starting over again. We will probably overreact in a week and a half or a week or whatever when Luka has 3 games in a row where shoots 56% and he's up around 30 points a night, and LeBron's being like, oh my God, how do you stop this team? There's too much passing, there's too much ball movement, there's too much skill here. Like, we need to see what it looks like on a night where Luka is on a bit of a heater. And then I think you'll be able to say, like, okay, where's the middle ground? What's the happy medium look like? I do think in the long term, it's probably going to have to be, our friend George Sedano, I think, was talking about this, and I think it was part of the Windy, what Windy was saying. Like, LeBron at some point is probably going to have to do for Luka what Wade did for him, and clearly just back off a little bit. But
yeah, I'd argue he has.
I think so too. And I also think the idea that it would be really hard for him is, like, he kind of turned it over. He gave the ball handling duties to Reeves earlier in the year. He
did it during a playoff series.
So that part has already happened. As functionally as you could, he sort of turned over the best player on the team mantle to AD. It looks different because AD doesn't handle the ball himself. I think the harder guy actually to figure out here is Reeves, but we can talk that on a separate show. His adjustment is going to be even bigger, but the willingness, I think, is there. I think it comes to me, at least, down to, with the 3 of them, they have to figure out how to get all of them playing to where they're doing stuff in relation to each other. Like, screens where one is setting for the other, and stuff like that. You made this point for Thursday's show. I think that's going to be where you start to see this stuff get unlocked.
And they got to be on the court together in order to do that. And when they're on the court, you can't, like Austin getting ejected, and, he more than made up for it tonight, but Austin getting ejected hurts those opportunities to create the 2-man synergy, the 3-man synergy. This synergy between Austin and Luka is going to matter. Like, it's not just LeBron and Luka. Like, Luka and Reeves are going to be at times the 2 main guys, and they have to learn how to play off each other.
Yeah, and just a bit like the problem with, like, you need Luka there because Reeves, when Reeves is the guy he can get into the paint, but it's not like LaMelo we saw on Wednesday, a couple dribbles, a little crossover, and the quickness, all of a sudden he's there. Like, Reeves got to work to get himself in there. It's effort, it's change of pace, it's physical. It's what
he was like Austin was like a human bruise after this game. That dude just spent, particularly the 4th quarter, just getting decked.
Like, I realize it's a travel day and all that. He ain't playing golf tomorrow. That's for damn sure.
Nope.
All right. I am excited to see what they do in Denver. Presumably everybody's available to play. We'll see. LeBron is going to be listed as questionable for every game for the rest of the season. But assuming he
misspelled his life.
Right. True.
I mean,
no, you're right. No, you're exactly
40.
Right. He's 40. I wake up every day and I'm questionable, and I don't play professional basketball. But let's just presume that they're all back on. It's a national TV game on a Saturday. Going to be fired up for it. And this could be a good barometer a little bit to see where they are. I'm excited. Anyway, Lakers win, big win, a needed win. And you guys can talk about it on YouTube, the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel, where over 32,000 subscribers are hanging out. Go to Dave Palais and the postcast if you get a chance. Definitely sign up for the newsletter. See everyone after the game on Saturday.